Welcome to 247 Real Talk. I'm your host, Julian Perry, and it's a pleasure to be here with you once again for another episode of the 247 Real Talk podcast. It is Wednesday, February 19th at approximately 9:55 p.m. I'm in my home studio that I'm beginning to empty out and transition, hopefully, to a space, a newly built studio that I will design to hopefully sound better and have better audio effects, audio bouncing off, and a little more comfort and style. Right, this was a sort of makeshift when I bought this house, and sort of set up in here, and we grew into what we have today. I hope you had a great week. It's been cold in New York. We've also gotten more snow than we've gotten any of the last 4 years. It was supposed to be another snowstorm tomorrow, but I'm hearing it's going to miss us finally. Someone indicated that maybe this weekend we may see weather in the 40s, and that was like someone telling me it's going to be 90 degrees tomorrow. It was almost euphoria with a group of us that were chatting. Anyway, I hope wherever you are is going well, wherever you are in Europe. I get a lot of listeners in Europe, the Caribbean, here in the United States. Wherever you are, I thank you for your support. I ask that in this time when it's so important for us to serve and grow, that you help me out. It does a lot for the channel. This is not a monetized channel, so it does a lot for me, at least in empowering me and uplifting me and making me know that I'm going in the right direction. So please like, subscribe, and share. Also, we need to get the message out, and we need to get more people involved in the conversation. This week, I'm going to talk a little bit about the fight, or lack thereof, or where is it? So sit back, relax, and I'll be right back. All right, so I'm back. In case I ever seem like I'm sitting in an awkward position, I am. I'm still rehabbing on my total knee replacement of my right knee. Today I visited my surgeon. They did x-rays. It was important for them to make sure that everything in my knee sort of fused into place and was exactly where they put it in surgery. It was a good result. The x-rays showed that everything was exactly where they put it, which is, as I said, important because my body will sort of fuse into it and make it a permanent part of my body. And if it shifts or moves, that presents a problem. And in the worst case scenario, presents the need for them to go back in. We also talked about a timeline for my left knee replacement because I think I expressed to you all that both knees need to be replaced. And so many people have said to me, I should have done both knees at one time because once you do one, you're not going to want to do the other. But I can be honest in saying, I will do the other without hesitation because my left knee, which is the one that is yet to be done, presents more pain and discomfort than my right knee, which only provides some discomfort when it's really cold, when the weather changes from the coldness and from the barometric pressure. Anyway, let's get on to this episode. We'll make it a quick one. I'm sure there's not a single person listening to this episode, whether you live in the United States or not, that has been paying some attention to the events in Washington, D.C., the events in our government here in the United States. Tomorrow will be February 20th, which will be exactly 30 days since or maybe today's 30 days, since President Trump took office. And it's been a tumultuous 30 days with lots of executive actions and actions that have been immediately met with lawsuits. The legal system, the judges are going to be very, very busy, I would think, over the next 4 years. I'm not sure this was the way to go about it, regardless of what you're trying to achieve, because we know that eventually when the courts get overwhelmed, things will get held up for very long, and many people need resolution to feel a sort of sense of stability and comfort in their lives. There's a lot going on. I'll before I get into the question I want to ask about, or talk about in this episode. I heard today that President Trump says, inflation is going to increase and it's not his fault. And I can't help but remember that we had a rise in inflation under President Biden, but he managed to get it down steadily. And even though it wasn't at its lowest, he managed to stabilize it, and it didn't increase. It's easy for new managers, new presidents, anyone in a new role to sort of blame the predecessor, but the buck stops with you once you take control, right? Your job is to reverse any negative action and to fix it. And so it's not enough, and it's not acceptable to simply blame your predecessor for your failures, especially when you promised the nation lower prices, lower taxes, lower this, lower that. So the question is, if we look at, and this is more of a one versus the other, not anything partisan, just examining the facts of what's going on in the political climate here today in the United States. When we decide to vote, when we look at who's running for a position in the House, in the Senate, governor, whoever they are, mayor, anyone, we listen to them speak and we listen to their promises. But what crossed my mind tonight as I was thinking about this episode is their common set of words that are used across the board, regardless of whether you're Republican, Democrat, Independent, Libertarian, no matter what you are. One of the things we hear candidates who are out there trying to convince us to vote for them is, I will fight for you. I will fight for what's right. I will fight to make things better. We will fight together. The word fight is used so often during political campaigns that it should probably be the leading word in front of every political campaign. And a lot of times we are driven and hyped up and emotionally touched by those who put a certain appearance of sincerity behind their convincing message that they will fight. We have a whole House of Representatives. We have a Senate. We have two major parties, Republican and Democrat. We have a Republican Party that currently has control of the House, Senate, and the presidency. We have a lot of controversial decisions and orders and changes being made. And my question is to the opposing side, which in this scenario happens to be the Democrats. Where is the fight you promised? The only thing I saw was a couple of days ago, I saw a clip of Tom Suozzi, who is from New York, questioning some folks in Washington who were in front of a panel, and they were discussing Elon Musk and Doge and their access to our personal information. Our information that's protected by privacy laws, that's protected by HIPAA, that's protected by the Constitution. And Tom Suozzi kept asking them, do you know what right Elon Musk and his Doge has to go access information? Do you know, do you know, do you know, do you know? And every answer to the question, do you know, was no, we don't. But the point that Tom Suozzi made was, if you or I or anyone decides to apply for a job in the federal government today, if we decide to apply for a job as janitor in any federal building, we go through a background check, job history, criminal history, mental health. And as you go up the scale, and the more they deem your ability to access confidential or what is deemed to be confidential information, the more stringent, the more of a deep dive goes into your background check. There are some positions where the investigators will go to where you live, your neighborhood, speak to your neighbors, see what kind of person you are. And here we have Elon Musk and Doge, who is not an elected official, who was not hired by by any process, who was not vetted, and his organization Doge, who did not go through background checks, did not go through security clearance, did not go through anything the government would require of you, me, or anyone, any citizen in the United States of America. And they have access to all of our information. Every living thing, every single thing that we've ever put in a piece of paper that has made its way into a system, even a local city or state system that sort of triages up to a federal system, they have access to. Information that you might have given a job application that is personal to you because of the nature of the job, you're required to put it down. They have access to your entire lives, and none of these people have been vetted. None of these people have been elected by the American people, and none of these people have. Matter of fact, all of these people have circumvented the process that every single one of us American citizens, whether you're Republican or Democrat, is subjected to. And my question is, where is the fight? You know, whatever you feel about January 6th insurrection, President Trump called upon his people to fight. And we're not discussing, because I don't want to get sidetracked, all that happened that day. The only thing I want to extract from that whole experience was they fought. We're not asking that. We're not asking any citizen at this point, other than peaceful protest and and engaging your representatives, and forming organizations and boycotting certain people, certain companies who have decided to trash DEI, even though they don't understand what that means, right? And let me digress for 1 second. When I talk about DEI, when people hear DEI, because they are so brainwashed, because they are so partisan, because they have given up the right to think for themselves and have pledged their common sense and their thought process to a party, to an individual, to a set of individuals, to politicians. They don't stop to think that if you think about DEI, if you break it down, out of the three especially, inclusivity and equity does not have a race, creed, or color. Right? Inclusivity in any process means inclusive of all of us. It means that if people of color get advantage in one scenario from inclusivity, there are instances where Caucasian or people who are other than people of color, let's put it that way, because there's so many races and so many mixtures here, get an opportunity to be included in something that they would be not included in, right? So it has this ability, even though it is geared towards the disadvantage that people of color have faced for hundreds of years. The point is, when you become so brainwashed that you fail to look at this in a more holistic sense, you give up your own rights and don't realize you're doing that. Even the people who support this. It goes, like I said, primarily to people of color and people of disadvantage, but it actually touches beyond that. Its reach is so wide. But no one stopped to say, wait a minute. And now look at how it's being used. Our government, our president has decided that people who he has not met personally, people that he was not present for their interview or their selection process, can be all scooped up and put under this umbrella of DEI and terminated. Terminated. Now, what do you think if they give the true numbers of unemployment? Here's another factor. What do you think the unemployment numbers are going to look like soon that are under President Trump versus President Biden? What do you think of the people who, like you and me, are struggling to survive, are managing to pay their bills, put food on their table, put a roof over their head, and live to some extent this God-given gift of life beyond the struggle, beyond the 9 to 5, beyond all the pressures of this society. A little trip on a weekend, a little dinner at anywhere, low scale, upscale, high, whatever, that where you can be out and breathe, and a little trip to your capital, wherever you are, to walk around, look at the sights and scenery. A little movie now and then, a little theater sometimes, whatever you like to do. Maybe a bicycle or an e-bike so you can ride around and enjoy nature, whatever it is. It's so expansive. When you have simple dreams or big dreams, and your employment, your ability to earn income is snatched away from you, understand the level of depression that you're putting a multitude of people in an inexplicable manner. The federal government is not a private company that went belly up in chapter 11 or whatever, chapter 13, whatever they filed bankruptcy. No, this is an arbitrary decision by a man in our mouth who has nothing to do really with government that says he's cutting waste. Okay, let's say that there is a lot of waste in government. Maybe you start by looking at areas across federal government where there are deficiencies. And you start by redeploying some people with similar skill sets, all in an effort to be a compassionate government and to minimize the pain as you reduce the size of government. Not pink slips to hundreds of people at 7 o'clock at night. And then look at who? Our Social Security, IRS, judges. There are a bunch of people I heard the other day who went through the legal process, who were legal immigrants, who had alien registration cards, who went and did the filing and paid the money and did all the processes and were ready to be sworn in as American citizens and could not be because a ton of judges who do the swearing in were terminated. And when you have a skill set like a judge, like an air traffic controller, how many of you can be absorbed by this system, and where do you go? You know, there's a job where you say, I'm in sales, I can sell anything. And if you get terminated for one job and you're really good at it, and the place closed or whatever, you can probably convince someone else in the sales industry for some other type of sale to do it because you have the overarching skills of sales. But when you have a set of specific skills, which many people in the federal government and specific jobs developed over years, went to school for, probably because they were pursuing their careers within the federal government, meaning they've been there for 10, 20, 30 years. And as they found a niche and a need, they went back to school, they got student loans, and they educated themselves with the ability to pursue upward mobility within that. They loved what they did. And most of all, federal, city, or state jobs are public servants in many cases. In all these cases, you take a job to serve the public that even in the good times, people will say to you, why do you work for the government? You can make more money in private industry. But it has become them to serve. And now someone just chops their legs off in the middle of the night. And you know, it breaks my heart to think of the person who has lost their jobs, who's working paycheck to paycheck, who maybe is paying a copay for their health insurance, and maybe they're helping their family member who is sick with their bills. Maybe they're really tight on money because a lot of their money goes to buying medication for their ailing parent or child that their health insurance doesn't cover. We have to have compassion and humanity irrespective of what we're trying to accomplish. We cannot be brutal in doing what we're doing to other human beings and just completely crush lives in the middle of the night and expect that there will be no repercussions from the Almighty God. There's no way to go before God and say, I love you, I believe in you, have mercy upon me, bless me while I destroy others. We have to have compassion. But now the ones who are making these decisions, they have a point too. If they walk into government and they start doing whatever they want because that's their ideology, that's their plan, where is the balance? Where is the fight? For all these members, was it 400 and something, 435 or something like that in the House of Representatives, all these people come from different states and have constituents who they sat in front of and said, elect me, I will fight for you. Where's the fight? Where's the noise? Where's the pushback? You got attorney generals in different states filing lawsuits. You got different agencies or people filing lawsuits to stop actions. But we're not hearing anything from the elected officials in Washington. The entire Democratic Party, barring a few individuals, is quiet. Quiet, as we would say, if I'm the Caribbean, I'm not sure if this is a saying here, quiet as a church mouse. There should be uproar, there should be noise, there should be people holding news conferences, there should be people holding rallies in their nation, there should be people, organizing people to stand up, to make their voices heard, to remind the government that you were elected by us. Even those who supported this regime are hurting. I'm not making this up. Every day in the news, you see more and more people who are saying, this is not what I expected. This is not what I expected when I voted for change. Where is the noise? Where are the people standing up and being heard from the people that we elected? I know I come on this podcast and I ask you and me to stand up to make change. But we also elected officials who have the official paid job to do this on our behalf. Elected by the people for the people. Where are they? They're sitting in their expensive $1 million houses, sipping their wine and eating caviar and looking on. No one is making a sound. Are you afraid? Are you afraid of what are you afraid of? Are you afraid that you won't get reelected and that you'll upset someone and lose your job? So then you don't care about the thousands that are losing their jobs. What are you afraid of? Are you afraid that doing the right thing may cause you to not get reelected? Does that mean that for the term you were elected for, it's more important for you to get reelected and continue to enjoy the protection of the Secret Service and your fancy houses and your fundraisers and all that nonsense, instead of what we asked you to do, what we elected you to do, what you promised us to do? You promised us to fight for what is right. Even if through some miracle there's some brilliance at the end of this implementation that's being done by current government in Washington, at minimum, there should be a fight for debate, for discussion. When I say debate, for public discussion, so that every single effort, every single effect, every single impact will be exposed and discussed, so that people can see the truth of how this will affect and who it will affect. When prices of food go up, it doesn't go up for the Democrats and not the Republicans. It doesn't go up for the Republicans and not the Democrats. It goes up for all across the United States. When poverty levels start getting impacted more and more, and the socioeconomic gap continues to widen, those who fall on a certain federal poverty level, as they call it, are not segregated into Republicans and Democrats, to black and white, to people of color. No. They're all citizens of the United States, you and me together, irrespective of race, creed, or color. Where is the fight? Again, understand what I mean by fight, because people are quick to jump on their high horses and their podiums and their social media platforms and twist and turn things. So let me make this very clear. I am not talking about violence when I say fight. I'm talking about the fire in your bellies to stand up for what you promised, to make your voices heard, to activate that same fire in constituents, in the public, to create inclusivity, to close the divide, because we see these things as universal problems that affect us all, irrespective of where we stand. Where is the fight of all the Democratic Party that we elected in Washington? I've heard this time and time again over the past few weeks. People use, slang. They say the Democratic Party is a waste. They're lazy. They're non-existent. They're there for the ride. You wonder why so many people are crossing over or leaving or not voting in terms of the Democratic Party? Because we don't see you. And again, I'm not talking as a Democrat. I'm not talking as a Republican. I'm talking as someone who's independent-minded. For me to stand in the middle and make a decision, I need to see both sides stand up. The Republican Party has stood up for what it wants to do, irrespective of whether you like it or not. When is the other party going to stand up so we can see the two hash this out to come up with a solution and a result of what is right for the American people, for the majority of us? That is what government is for. That is why there are two opposing parties, so that the debate can happen and the result can be the best thing for the American people. Where is the Democratic Party? Where is the noise? Where are the rallies? Where are the speeches? Where are the actions? Where are the lawsuits? Where are the voices? Where are the oppositions? Where is the fight? It occurs to me that in all of this, people have left out so much, in the sense that they have forgotten that while they sit on their high horses and they live for self-preservation, none of this that's going on today is a surprise to our Creator, to my Creator, to my God, to Almighty God. We seem to forget that each and every day, one of us who's listening to this podcast, one of us will either be us or will know someone who is here today while I'm recording, who will not be here tomorrow. And no man, Republican, Democrat, Independent, Libertarian, white, black, blue, green, yellow, purple, powerful, rich, poor, middle income, no human being has the power to predict or preserve life. I say this to every single person in Washington. I say this to every single person who is hearing my words, who is listening to this podcast. I say this to every single person in the United States and around the world. Take heed. Sit in a quiet moment and examine life and realize how much control we do not have. For those who are doing things that inflict pain on others. For those who get that feeling of euphoria from power. Remember that all that you do, that the Almighty said He reigns on the just and the unjust. Don't believe that because you are doing and are part of the unjust, that you're invincible to His hand. I promise you that He's a fair God. That He's a fair God, F-A-I-R, and He's a God who should be feared, F-E-A-R-E-D. Because when He decides to act, when He decides to take all that power, all that beating of your chest, all that narcissism, all that I am bigger, better, wealthier than you are, all that greed. When he decides to make an example to remind the world that he is still on the throne, all of this that we're discussing, none of it will matter. But until then, when you take an oath to the people, when you take an oath in office to represent the people, because you acknowledge that you've been elected by the people for the people, then live up to that word. Live up to what you promised. I want to see it. Where is the fight? I'm so honored to each and every week to speak with you, to express my personal feelings and the feelings of those who continue to communicate with me. I thank you so much. For those who get a hold of me every week to continue to encourage me, I thank you. For those who get a hold of me daily, sending me articles and content and food for thought, I thank you. For those of you who continue to share and subscribe, I thank you. For those of you who email me all the time and challenge me in a respectful and powerful way, I thank you. I will sit here and I will do this. Big, small, millions of followers, one follower. I will continue to pursue my heartfelt desire to serve and to earn as best as I can the right to occupy a space on this earth. I do it because I believe it's my calling. I do it because I believe that it is the right thing to do. And I do it without any doubt or any kind of fear or any kind of concern that I will fail, because I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Have a great week, a great weekend, and we will chat again next week and examine the next incredible thing to happen in Washington. Until then, thank you for everything, your support, your love. Do have a great weekend. I hope you continue to celebrate Black History Month irrespective of race, creed, or color, for that is recognition of history and recognition of humanity. Until the next time, please take care of yourselves and each other.